The red sun of Vareth 9 burned weakly through the dust storm, painting the horizon in rusty colors. The air smelled of metal and heat. Eli Kane, a human miner, had lived alone here for years. He worked the deep mineral trenches away from everyone. Machines were his only company, and silence was his only friend. Every day felt the same. Wake before dawn. Check the power cells, start the drills, and mine the rare ores that the trade ships barely cared to buy. He didn't complain. Life in the galaxy had forgotten humans long ago. To most alien races, they were ghosts, legends from an old war said to have vanished after the fall of Earth. Eli didn't argue. He was done proving humanity's worth. But that morning, something broke the endless routine. As Eli drove his mining crawler toward the eastern ridge, a flicker caught his eye. A movement in the storm. At first he thought it was debris, maybe a lost banner. But as he came closer, the shape grew clear. His heart slowed. It was a body. A small alien girl hung from a metal pole at the crossroads, her arms bound above her head by glowing energy cords. Her feet barely touched the sand. A wooden sign swayed in the wind. Crude letters burned into it read, "The Baron never forgives." Eli stopped his crawler and stepped out. The wind whipped his jacket as the sand bit into his face. The girl's silver skin shimmered faintly, and her white hair was tangled, covering her face. She was still breathing, barely. He looked around. The dunes were silent, but his instincts screamed that someone was watching. A few black drones hovered far off, their lenses flashing red before fading into the storm. He knew what this was. The Baron of Vareth, a cruel warlord, ruled these lands. He punished rebels by making examples out of them. No one interfered. Not even alien traders dared to help, for fear their heads would decorate the poles next. Eli clenched his fists. "Don't get involved," he whispered to himself. "Not your fight." He took a step back toward his crawler, but then a faint sound stopped him. "Please." The voice was soft, broken, weak. The girl's lips moved slightly. Her eyes, glowing silver beneath the dirt, met his. For a moment he saw fear and hope. Eli cursed under his breath. He could leave her there, pretend he never saw it. That would be the smart thing to do. But as he looked at her shaking in the cold wind, he remembered another face, his little sister years ago, back on the mining colonies before everything went wrong. With a sigh, he pulled out his plasma cutter. "Hold still," he said, voice firm but kind. The beam hissed, slicing through the cuffs. The girl dropped, too weak to stand. Eli caught her just before she hit the sand. Her skin felt cold, almost metallic. Her pulse was faint. He looked up again at the sign, then at the empty sky. "Guess I'm a dead man now," he muttered. He carried her to the crawler and laid her on the back seat. The storm roared louder, as if warning him to turn back. But Eli started the engine and pushed the throttle. The crawler roared into motion, vanishing into the dunes. Inside the vehicle, the girl stirred. "Why, help me?" she asked weakly. Eli glanced at her, then back at the storm ahead. "Because someone had to." She blinked slowly. "He'll come for me." "Let him," Eli said quietly, gripping the controls tighter. As the crawler sped toward his mining shelter, he couldn't shake the feeling that the girl's words weren't just a warning. They were a promise. When they reached the rocky canyon where his base was hidden, Eli carried her inside and laid her on the cot near his tools. He removed the metal collar from her neck and began cleaning the wounds with what little med gel he had. Her breathing steadied, though her skin still glowed faintly beneath the surface. "Name?" he asked. "Lyra," she whispered. Eli nodded. "All right, Lyra, you're safe now. Try to rest." But as he turned to check the scanner, his stomach twisted. The radar showed movement, multiple signals, drones, fast. He looked through the window slit. Far across the wasteland, red lights moved like fireflies, spreading in a wide search pattern. The Baron already knew. Eli stared at the blinking dots and took a deep breath. "Well, Kane," he muttered to himself, "you just brought the devil to your door." Outside, lightning forked across the horizon, and the sandstorm howled like a warning cry. Inside, Lyra opened her glowing eyes again, eyes that held secrets far beyond his understanding. Eli didn't know it yet, but saving her wasn't an act of mercy. It was the beginning of something far greater, something that would shake the stars. The storm raged all night outside Eli's shelter. The wind howled like a beast, shaking the thin metal walls of his outpost. Inside, the air was heavy with tension. The small alien girl, Lyra, lay motionless on the cot, her skin faintly glowing under the dim blue light. Eli sat across from her, cleaning his plasma tools and pretending not to look at her every few seconds. He wasn't used to company, especially not a strange alien with the Baron's mark carved into her collar. He'd seen hundreds of bodies left hanging like warnings, but this was the first time one had survived. The shelter was quiet except for the low hum of generators. Eli's mining bot sat in the corner charging. The smell of burnt metal and dust filled the room. He poured water into a metal cup and walked over to her. "Here," he said simply, offering it. Lyra blinked slowly, her eyes glowing faint silver. "You shouldn't have helped me," she whispered, her voice weak but calm. Eli gave a short laugh. "Yeah, I'm starting to realize that." She took the cup with shaky hands, sipping carefully. Her wrists were covered with deep burns from the energy cuffs, and the bruises across her neck were dark. Eli had wrapped them with what little medband he had left. For a moment, neither spoke. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by the low growl of thunder. Then Lyra looked up. "Do you know who the Baron is?" Eli didn't answer right away. He just leaned back in his chair and stared at the flickering light above. "I know enough," he said. "He owns everything within 200 miles. Anyone who crosses him disappears. He sends out his machines to burn whole camps just to make a point." Lyra's expression darkened. "Then you understand why helping me is dangerous." "I figured," Eli said. "But I've done dangerous things before." Lyra stared at him for a long moment as if trying to read him. Then she looked down. "You could still turn me in. Say you found me dead. They might let you live." Eli gave a dry smile. "You really don't know humans, do you?" Lyra tilted her head slightly. "I thought humans were gone. Stories told to scare children." "Yeah," Eli said, chuckling without humor. "We get that a lot." The lights flickered suddenly. Eli's eyes darted to the corner display. Motion sensors, something was moving outside. He stood up quickly and looked at the radar. 5, maybe 6 signals. Small, fast drones. "They found us," he muttered. Lyra sat up instantly, though her body shook from weakness. "They always find me," she whispered. Eli grabbed his plasma rifle and checked the charge. "Stay low. If they get through the perimeter, this place won't hold." He rushed to the window slit and peered out. Through the storm's haze, red lights flashed like distant embers. The Baron's seeker drones were sweeping the area. Eli cursed under his breath and adjusted the shield generator. The system was old, patched together from scrap. It could block scans for a few minutes, but not for long. He turned back to Lyra. "We can't stay here. As soon as they confirm a life signal, they'll send the hunters." She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Eli caught her before she fell. "Easy," he said, steadying her. Lyra's breathing quickened. "They will kill you," she said softly. "The Baron doesn't forgive." "Yeah, well, neither do I," Eli replied. He helped her into the crawler parked in the side hangar. The engines roared to life, shaking dust from the ceiling. As they pulled out of the shelter, the storm swallowed them whole. Behind them, a bright explosion lit up the sky. His base. The drones had fired missiles the moment they detected movement. The blast painted the clouds in orange fire. Lyra looked back, her eyes wide. "You're home," Eli gritted his teeth. It was just metal. The crawler bounced across the dunes, heading toward the old mining tunnels to the west. They were ancient, deep enough to hide from scanners, but it was a long and dangerous route. As the engines groaned, Lyra clutched her chest. A faint light pulsed beneath her skin, just under her ribs. Eli noticed it and frowned. "What's that?" he asked. Lyra covered it with her hand. "It's nothing. Just a scar." Eli didn't believe her, but he let it go. For now. Outside, lightning flashed again, revealing black shapes flying above them. The Baron's ships were closer now, too close. Eli pushed the crawler harder. The engine screamed, sparks flying from the rear vents. "Hold on," he shouted. "We're not dying today." Lyra watched him in silence, her glowing eyes reflecting the storm. No one had ever risked their life for her before. This human, this stubborn, reckless man, was something she couldn't understand. As they disappeared into the storm, one of the ships broadcasted a cold voice across the radio waves. "Return the fugitive, human." "The Baron never forgives." Eli smirked and turned off the receiver. "Guess he'll have to learn how," he muttered. The crawler vanished into the wasteland, carrying 2 fugitives, the hunted and the human who refused to walk away. Neither of them knew that tonight's escape was only the beginning. The galaxy was about to remember humanity, and it would never forget. The storm had finally eased, leaving behind a ghostly silence. The twin moons of Vareth 9 rose high above the endless dunes, casting silver light across the cracked desert floor. Eli Kane guided his battered crawler through the rocky canyons, its engines rumbling softly like a tired beast. Every few seconds he glanced at the scanner on his wrist. The red blips were still there, small, fast, moving in circles. They were being hunted. Lyra sat quietly in the co-pilot seat, her hands folded in her lap. She looked pale, her silver skin faintly glowing under the dashboard lights. She hadn't spoken much since they escaped the explosion that destroyed Eli's shelter. Every time the crawler hit a bump, she winced in pain, clutching her side where the strange light still pulsed beneath her skin. Eli finally broke the silence. "You're bleeding again." "It's not blood," she whispered. "Not anymore." He looked at her but said nothing. There was something about her tone, something that made the air feel heavier. He slowed the crawler near a jagged cliff and turned off the headlights. The machine hummed down to a quiet vibration. They were in the shadow of an old mining tunnel, one of the countless scars left by humans decades ago when they still had colonies in this sector. Eli turned to her. "You said the Baron will come for you no matter what. Why, what did you take?" Lyra's fingers trembled. She looked away, her glowing eyes filled with guilt. "Something he stole first. Something that doesn't belong to him. That's not an answer." She took a deep breath. "He took the life core of my people, the essence crystal. It keeps my world alive. Without it, the surface will die and so will my race. I tried to steal it back, but I was caught before I could escape. He branded me a traitor and left me to die." Eli stared at her. "So you're telling me you've got something the Baron values more than life itself?" Lyra nodded slowly. "It's inside me now. Hidden. If he gets it back, my world is finished." Eli rubbed his forehead and sighed. "Great, so I didn't just save a girl. I saved a walking war." She looked at him then, her eyes glimmering. "You regret it?" He hesitated. "No, just wish I'd known before blowing up my home." The scanner beeped sharply, breaking the moment. Eli checked it again. The blips were closing in fast. 8, maybe 10 now. Damn it. Drones again. He started the crawler and turned toward the dark tunnel. "We're heading underground." The crawler roared to life and rolled down the slope, disappearing into the mouth of the tunnel. Inside, the darkness swallowed them. The walls were carved with old mining marks and rusted rails from forgotten machines. As they moved deeper, Lyra looked around in awe. "Humans built all this?" "Yeah," Eli said quietly. "We used to build a lot of things. Now we just survive." The tunnel shook suddenly. The ground behind them exploded in a flash of light. The crawler skidded as debris rained down. "They found us!" Lyra shouted. Eli hit the booster switch. The crawler's rear vents flared blue as it shot forward. Laser fire streaked past them, slicing the tunnel walls. Drones swooped in through the entrance, red eyes glowing. Eli swung the crawler around a sharp bend and slammed a button on the panel. Old security turrets powered on, their targeting lights blinking alive for the first time in years. "Let's see if these still work," he muttered. The tunnel filled with blinding flashes as the turrets opened fire. The first wave of drones shattered into sparks. The shockwaves echoed through the earth. But more were coming. Lyra gripped the seat. "You can't fight them all." "Didn't plan to." Eli hit the brakes and grabbed a detonator from his belt. "Hold on tight." He threw the detonator out the back window and pressed the switch. The explosion tore through the tunnel, collapsing the entrance behind them. Dust and fire filled the air. When the noise finally died, only silence remained. Eli exhaled slowly and leaned back in his seat. "That should buy us some time." Lyra's voice was soft but urgent. "He will send more. He never stops." Eli looked at her, his jaw tightening. "Then neither will I." For a long moment they sat there, surrounded by darkness and the faint hum of cooling engines. Finally, Lyra whispered, "You risked everything for someone you just met." "Why?" Eli's eyes flicked toward the tunnel ahead, where faint lights glowed in the distance. Old human markings, maybe old memories. "Because once someone risked everything for me. I couldn't save them. Maybe this time I can." The silence between them turned softer. Lyra lowered her head, her eyes shimmering faintly. As the crawler rolled deeper into the forgotten tunnels, Neither noticed the small camera blinking red on the rock wall, a live feed transmitting their position to the Baron's command ship. Far above the planet's surface, in orbit, the Baron watched the feed with cold amusement. His golden armor gleamed under the light of the monitors. "So," he said in a deep, metallic voice, "a human dares to steal what's mine." His robotic servant stood still as he raised a clawed hand. "Send the hunters. Burn the tunnels. I want the girl alive, and bring me the man. I want to see what kind of creature still calls itself human." Down below, Eli had no idea what was coming. The true hunt had only just begun. The deep tunnels stretched for miles, twisting through ancient stone like the veins of a dead world. The hum of Eli's crawler echoed softly through the darkness as its headlights painted the rough walls in gold. Dust floated in the air, shimmering in the beams of light like forgotten ghosts. Eli stopped the vehicle near an old service platform. Rusted signs written in faded human script still clung to the walls, warnings from miners long gone. The place felt haunted but safe enough for a rest. Lyra sat quietly staring at the tunnel's ceiling. Her breathing was shallow, and the faint glow under her skin pulsed faster now, spreading from her chest to her neck. Eli noticed it and frowned. "That light again? You said it's not blood. So what is it?" Lyra hesitated. Her hands trembled slightly. "You should not see this," she whispered. "Too late for that," he said, sitting across from her. "I've already lost my home, my peace, and probably my life. You might as well tell me what I'm dying for." Lyra looked up, her silver eyes filled with fear and sorrow. Then she placed her hand over the center of her chest. The glow brightened beneath her skin. Slowly she drew in a deep breath, and the light rose out of her palm like liquid fire. Eli stepped back, eyes wide. The light formed into a floating crystal, small as a heart, pulsing with blue and white energy. It felt alive. "This is the essence crystal," she said softly, "the life core of my people. Every one of us is connected to it. When it was stolen by the Baron, our world began to die. The seas dried. The forest turned to ash. I tried to take it back, but it fused with me before I could escape." Eli stared at it, mesmerized. The glow reflected in his eyes like the reflection of 1,000 stars. "And now it's part of you," she nodded. "Yes, and now it's part of you too." "What?" "When you touched me, when you saved me, it reached out. It recognized something inside you." She looked at him, her gaze both frightened and amazed. "It bonded with your life force. That's why the Baron wants us both now." Eli laughed nervously. "You're saying some alien rock decided to move into my body?" Lyra shook her head. "Not a rock. A living energy. A guardian of balance. It chooses hearts that are pure. Hearts that protect," Eli snorted. "Then it must be broken." But inside he felt a strange warmth spreading through his chest. A pulse that matched hers. For a moment he heard whispers, faint and distant like voices echoing through time. Images flashed through his mind. Cities floating in the clouds, vast alien forests, and a world wrapped in blue light. He staggered back, breathing heavily. "What was that?" "The crystal shared its memory with you," Lyra said gently. "You saw my world. What it was. Before the Baron destroyed it." Eli leaned against the wall, still shaken. "I didn't ask for this, Lyra." "I know," she whispered. "Neither did I." A deep rumble shook the ground. Dust fell from the ceiling. The lights on the crawler flickered. Eli rushed to the scanner. Multiple signals again, larger this time. "Not drones, ships, they found us again?" He muttered, Lyra's expression hardened. "No, that's not them." A massive explosion thundered through the tunnel entrance. Rocks collapsed behind them as the air filled with fire. Eli grabbed his gear. "Then who the hell—" From the flames, metallic footsteps echoed. Figures emerged, hunters. Tall armored soldiers with glowing red visors. The Baron's elite. Lyra's eyes widened. He sent the hunters himself. Eli fired his plasma rifle, blue bolts cutting through the dust. One hunter fell, but 3 more appeared. They moved like machines, silent and merciless. "Go!" Eli shouted. "Run!" Lyra stumbled toward the crawler, clutching the glowing crystal to her chest. The tunnel walls shook as the hunters advanced. One fired an energy spear, striking the ground near Eli. He dived behind a broken pillar and returned fire, the blast lighting the darkness in blinding flashes. "Keep moving!" he yelled. Lyra climbed into the crawler and hit the ignition. The engine screamed as Eli jumped in beside her. The moment he did, she pressed her hand to his chest. The crystal's glow surged through both of them. The crawler's systems came alive with a sudden burst of power, brighter than ever before. The engines roared like thunder as the vehicle shot forward, smashing through debris and flame. "What did you do?" Eli shouted, gripping the controls. "I gave it strength," Lyra cried. "Our bond feeds it." Behind them, the tunnel collapsed completely, burying the hunters in molten rock. The blast threw the crawler forward, launching it into a deeper, forgotten chamber. When the dust settled, Eli and Lyra sat in stunned silence. The glow between them slowly faded. Eli looked at her, breathing hard. "You just turned a mining truck into a warship." Lyra gave a small, weak smile. "No, the crystal did. It protects those who protect others." Eli looked at the smoking tunnel behind them and then back at her. "Then I guess we're not running anymore." He stood, brushing dust from his jacket, his voice hardening. "You said this thing keeps your world alive. Maybe it can do more. Maybe it's time the Baron learned what happens when you corner a human." Lyra met his gaze, her silver eyes glowing brighter. "Then we fight together." Eli nodded slowly. "Yeah, together." Far above the tunnels in the Baron's fortress ship, alarms blared. The energy surge from the crystal had been detected. The Baron smiled beneath his metal mask. "So," he whispered coldly, "the human fights back." His eyes glowed red as he gave the order. "Prepare my descent. I'll deal with this myself." The war for Vareth 9 had just begun. The sky above Vareth 9 cracked with lightning as the Baron's dreadnought broke through the storm clouds. It was massive, an obsidian blade cutting through the heavens, its engines roaring like thunder. Whole flocks of metal-winged drones followed behind, spreading across the wasteland. From orbit to ground, every scanner on the planet screamed the same warning. The Baron was coming. Deep below, in the collapsed tunnels, Eli Kane and Lyra worked to restart the crawler's systems. Sparks flickered from broken circuits, the smell of burning metal filling the air. "Engines are fried," Eli muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead. "We're not going anywhere until I rebuild the coils." Lyra sat near him, the glow of the crystal beneath her skin dimmer than before. Her face was pale. "He's here," she whispered. "I can feel his presence. The Baron is close." Eli stopped working for a moment. He looked at her, then at the tunnel ceiling. The faint tremor under his boots was growing stronger. "Yeah," he said quietly. "I can feel it too." The ground suddenly shook as debris rained down from above. A blinding light poured through a crack in the ceiling. Eli shielded his eyes. Through the dust he saw shadows descending, massive shapes with glowing red armor. "The Baron's soldiers." "Get behind me," Eli said, grabbing his plasma rifle. He crouched behind a fallen beam, aiming at the first soldier that landed. The air shimmered as the soldier's shield activated, a wall of red energy. Eli fired anyway. The blast ricocheted harmlessly off it. The soldier's voice echoed, cold and metallic. "By order of the Baron, surrender the host and live." Eli snorted. "You really think I'm buying that?" He threw an EMP grenade. It exploded in a flash of blue light, shorting the soldier's shields long enough for him to fire again. One soldier went down, armor melting under the plasma blast. The others opened fire, energy bolts tearing through the tunnel. Lyra pressed her hand against the glowing crystal at her chest. The light flared again, wrapping her in a faint aura. "Eli, behind you," she cried. He spun just in time to block a blade strike with his rifle. Sparks flew as he shoved the attacker back. His breath came in short bursts, but his eyes burned with determination. "Come on," he shouted. "You wanted a human, here's one." Above them, the dreadnought's engines shifted pitch. A deep, unnatural hum filled the air as a massive figure descended through the light. The Baron himself landed with a thunderous crash, his boots crushing the rock beneath. He was a towering hybrid of flesh and machine, his body plated with gold and black armor, his face hidden behind a mask of gleaming steel. One red eye glowed like a burning sun. The other side of his face was human, or what was left of it. Eli froze. He had seen monsters before, but none like this. The Baron's voice echoed through the tunnel, calm but venomous. "So, a human still walks among the living." He stepped closer, each footstep shaking the ground. "I thought your kind had vanished with your dying planet." Eli aimed his rifle, defiant. "Guess you thought wrong." The Baron tilted his head slightly. "You have something that belongs to me. The crystal has chosen you, but it will obey me." Lyra stepped forward, trembling but resolute. "It will never obey you. It knows your heart. Black, cruel, empty. The Baron's mask turned toward her. Child, you were nothing but a servant. You think this human can save you? Eli fired again. The blast struck the Baron square in the chest. The explosion threw dust everywhere, but when the smoke cleared, the Baron stood unharmed. His armor shimmered with dark energy, absorbing the attack. You amuse me, the Baron said, but amusement dies quickly. He raised his hand. A wave of force shot forward, slamming Eli against the wall. Pain surged through his body as cracks split the stone behind him. Eli! Lyra screamed, running toward him. But the Baron's energy field pushed her back. Eli coughed, blood trickling from his lip. He looked up at the towering figure, refusing to yield. You think power makes you a god? You're just a bully with armor, the Baron's voice lowered. Then let me show you what gods do to insects. He raised his weapon, a long spear humming with black plasma, and thrust it toward Eli. But just before it struck, Lyra screamed, her entire body glowing. The crystal inside her burst with light, forming a shield around Eli. The spear shattered against it, throwing the Baron back a step. The entire tunnel lit up like a star. Energy surged through Eli's veins, connecting him fully to the crystal. His eyes burned blue as his wounds healed before her eyes. What's happening? He gasped. The crystal, Lyra said, tears in her voice. It's awakened inside you. Eli stood slowly, his body glowing faintly with the same energy. Then let's see what it can do. He extended his hand and a surge of blue light shot forward, striking the Baron's chest and sending him crashing into the far wall. The entire tunnel trembled. For the first time, the Baron looked surprised. His red eye flickered. Impossible. Humans cannot wield this power. Eli smirked, his voice steady despite the chaos. Guess you've been out of touch. The Baron roared, the sound shaking the cavern as he vanished into the smoke. When the dust cleared, he was gone, but his voice lingered, echoing like thunder. This is not over, human. I will take back what is mine. Eli lowered his hand, breathing hard. The glow slowly faded from his body. Lyra caught him as he nearly fell. You faced him and lived, she whispered. Eli gave a weak smile. Yeah, but something tells me he'll make sure I regret that. Above them, the Baron's ship rose again into the storm. The next battle was coming, and this time the galaxy would be watching. The surface of Vareth 9 burned. The Baron's dreadnought hovered low in the crimson sky, blotting out the twin suns as waves of fire and smoke rolled across the wasteland. Drones swarmed like black insects, their engines screaming as they combed the desert for the fugitives who had dared to defy their master. Far below, Eli Kane and Lyra emerged from the broken tunnels, coughing through the ash-filled air. The explosion that had buried the Baron's soldiers still rumbled in the distance, sending clouds of molten dust into the wind. Eli squinted at the horizon. We can't stay underground anymore, he said. He'll collapse every tunnel if he has to. Lyra looked up at the burning sky, her silver eyes reflecting the fire. He's angry, she whispered. He never expected anyone to stand against him. You wounded his pride. Eli gave a dry laugh. Good. Maybe that'll slow him down. But deep down, he knew it wouldn't. The Baron wasn't just angry, he was obsessed. And now that the crystal's power had awakened inside Eli, the entire planet had become a battlefield. They moved through the ruins of an old mining camp, picking their way between shattered vehicles and collapsed towers. The air shimmered with heat, and the ground trembled every few seconds as explosions tore through the desert miles away. Eli stopped near a rusted water tank and checked his rifle. The barrel was scorched, the charge nearly empty. We're running out of options, he said. We can't fight an army with mining tools. Lyra touched his arm. You're not alone anymore, she said softly. The crystal has chosen you. It won't let you fall. Eli met her gaze. I'm not counting on magic to save us. It's not magic, she said. It's life. It's will. And it answers to the heart that protects others. Before Eli could respond, the ground shook violently. He turned just as a beam of red energy slammed into the nearby ridge, vaporizing it in seconds. The shockwave threw them both to the ground. From the dust, a shadow loomed. Massive war machines, four-legged constructs of black metal crawling over the dunes. The Baron's hunters had found them. Eli grabbed Lyra's hand. Run! They sprinted across the cracked terrain as explosions lit up the sky. The roar of engines grew louder behind them. A plasma shell struck the sand just meters away, sending a wave of molten glass in every direction. Eli stumbled but kept moving, dragging Lyra with him toward a cluster of old cargo ships half buried in the sand. They dove behind the wreckage as another blast hit. Lyra looked at him, fear and determination battling in her eyes. "You can't outrun him forever." "I don't plan to," Eli said, checking his weapon again. "If this is where he wants to end it, then fine. We'll end it here." He stood up, eyes fixed on the advancing machines. His heart pounded not with fear but with fire. The same blue glow from before began to flicker across his hands, stronger now, brighter. Lyra stepped closer. "The crystal is responding to your will," she said. "It senses your purpose." Eli didn't answer. He aimed his hands toward the nearest hunter and focused. The air trembled as energy surged through him. A blinding beam of light burst out, cutting the metal beast in half. Lyra gasped. "You're controlling it." Eli exhaled hard. "Not controlling, borrowing." The other hunters fired back. Bolts of plasma ripped through the air, but this time, the energy curved away, bending like wind around them. Eli pushed forward, his step steady, his body glowing brighter with every strike. He raised both arms, and the ground beneath the hunters cracked open. Blue fire erupted from the fissures, engulfing them in a storm of light. One by one, the Baron's machines fell, burning until only ash remained. When the last explosion faded, silence returned. The air shimmered with heat, and the sand glowed faintly where the energy had touched it. Lyra stared at Eli, her voice trembling. No human should have been able to do that. Eli looked down at his hands, still glowing faintly. "Yeah," he said quietly. "But maybe humans aren't what the galaxy remembers them to be." Before she could answer, a voice thundered through the comms deep. "Cold and furious, you think you've won, Miner? Look up." Eli turned toward the horizon. The Baron's dreadnought had descended, its shadow swallowing the desert. Massive energy conduits extended from its hull, pointing straight at them. The air crackled with static. Lyra's face went pale. "He's going to destroy the entire wasteland." Eli clenched his fists. "Not while I'm standing." He placed his hand on the ground. The crystal's power surged again, spreading through the earth like lightning. All around them, the broken mining machines began to stir, their lights flickering back to life, their cores glowing blue instead of red. Lyra gasped. "You're awakening them!" Eli smirked. "No, the planet is." The old mining bots rose like an army of steel giants, their eyes blazing with the same energy as the crystal. They turned toward the dreadnought in unison. Eli looked up at the sky, his voice calm but fierce. "You wanted a war, Baron? Here's one." He pointed toward the looming ship. The machines charged, firing beams of energy that tore through the dark clouds. The Baron's laughter echoed across the desert. "You can't stop what's already mine, human." Eli's eyes glowed as he replied, "Then it's time someone took it back." As fire and lightning collided over the wasteland, the battle for Vareth 9 began in full. Above them, the night burned with light as one lone human stood against a tyrant, and the galaxy trembled at the sight. The sky above Vareth 9 had become a storm of fire and light. The Baron's dreadnought loomed like a burning mountain, unleashing waves of red plasma down upon the desert below. But this time the ground fought back. The mining machines that once dug quietly in the sand now roared with life, glowing with the same blue energy that pulsed through Eli Kane's veins. Eli stood on a ridge of black rock. His armor scorched, his face streaked with dust and blood. The crystal's light shimmered beneath his skin, running like living fire through his veins. Beside him, Lyra stood tall, her silver eyes bright with both awe and sorrow. "You're changing," she whispered. Eli glanced at her, a faint smile touching his lips. "Feels that way. Like I've got a reactor inside me that won't quit." "It's the bond," she said softly. "You and the crystal, you've become one." A massive explosion lit up the sky, shaking the ground. The Baron's ship had begun its descent. Its engine screamed as it carved a scar across the desert, lowering until its shadow swallowed the horizon. The radio crackled with the Baron's voice, deep and cruel. "You've caused enough trouble, human. Kneel now and I'll make your end quick." Eli raised his head, his voice steady and cold. "You'll have to come take me yourself." And the Baron did. He descended in a storm of lightning, landing with enough force to crack the ground beneath him. His armor was scorched from their last encounter, but his fury made him even more terrifying. Red energy coiled around his gauntlets as he stepped forward, his glowing eye burning like a dying star. "Look at you," the Baron said, "a miner pretending to be a warrior. Do you really think the galaxy will remember you? Eli's grip tightened on his plasma cutter, now glowing bright blue, alive with the crystal's energy. If they remember anything, he said, let it be that one human refused to kneel. The Baron roared and charged. The impact of their clash shattered the air like thunder. Energy exploded outward, turning sand into glass. Eli was thrown back but caught himself midair, using the blue light surging through his body to land on his feet. The Baron came again, swinging his massive blade of molten plasma. Eli blocked it with his cutter, sparks flying. The ground cracked beneath them as each blow sent shockwaves through the earth. You can't win, the Baron shouted. That power doesn't belong to you. Eli's voice was calm. Even as sweat poured down his face. You're right. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to those you tried to destroy. He thrust his hand forward and a beam of blue light erupted from his palm, striking the Baron square in the chest. The tyrant staggered but didn't fall. He grabbed Eli by the throat, lifting him into the air. Your heart will burn first, the Baron snarled. But Lyra cried out, raising her hands. The crystal's glow flared inside her chest, responding to Eli's pain. Blue tendrils of light leapt from her body to his, merging them in a blinding surge. The Baron stepped back, shielding his face. No, impossible. When the light faded, Eli floated above the ground, eyes glowing like twin suns. The crystal's energy pulsed through him and Lyra together, their bond complete. Eli's voice echoed, not loud but powerful. You wanted the power of the crystal? Here it is. He raised both hands and the sky itself responded. Bolts of blue lightning crashed down, tearing through the Baron's drones, ripping into his ship's engines. The dreadnought screamed as systems failed, explosions bursting across its hull. The Baron lunged forward one last time, rage burning through his mechanical body, but Eli caught his weapon with his bare hands, energy crackling where they touched. This is for every voice you silenced, Eli said quietly. Then the light surged again, pure, unstoppable. The blast engulfed them both. The explosion was seen from orbit, a column of blue fire rising to the heavens. The Baron's dreadnought shattered in the air, falling apart like broken glass. When the storm cleared, only silence remained. Lyra stumbled through the smoke, calling out, Eli! Her voice echoed weakly through the settling dust. She found him lying near the edge of a crater, the crystal dim but still glowing faintly inside his chest. She knelt beside him, tears mixing with the dust. You did it. You saved us. Eli opened his eyes slowly. His voice was faint but steady. Guess miners are good at digging their way out of trouble. Lyra laughed through her tears. You changed everything. My people, our world, will live again. He looked up at the twin suns breaking their... He aimed his hands toward the... It senses your purpose. Eli didn't answer. The smoke. Good, he whispered. Just promise me one thing. Don't let them forget what humans stood for. I promise, she said, holding his hand. The light from the crystal spread outward, touching the scorched ground. Flowers of glowing blue energy began to bloom from the ashes. The air cleared. The sky turned golden once more. Moments later, the first ships of Lyra's people descended from orbit, guided by the signal of the crystal. They found their princess alive and a lone human beside her, barely breathing but victorious. When the alien commander saw the scene, he bowed deeply. He is the one the Corps chose, he said. The guardian of light. Lyra looked at Eli, her voice breaking softly. No, she said, smiling through tears. He's a human, the one who reminded us all what courage truly means. As the alien fleet carried them skyward, the desert below shimmered with new life. The Baron's shadow was gone, and across the galaxy the legend began to spread, of the lone human miner who stood against tyranny and won. A tale whispered among stars, the Baron never forgave, but the human never forgot.